Can I just come back to the reducing false alarms? And I think it was Simon who mentioned staff training was one of the key aspects. And I think, Simon, you're referring to the staff in the care home, making sure that they understand how the fire system works and how they, as responsible people, should be operating it and monitoring it. But also, I'd like to maybe draw that back to the engineer side. What can companies such as churches do to improve system design and the quality of the systems from an engineering and design point of view?
I think really, as we probably all are aware, that every design should be built around an FRA provided by the owner of the care home, and taking into account all design elements within that FRA and any fire strategies. So really, it's a partnership between a contractor and the care home operator or owner, really. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules. Clearly, we have to follow certain British standards and their guidance, but there are other elements that maybe need to be taken into account with regards to this. Andy, I'm sure you could probably elaborate on that, on any particular requirements that you would have as a provider.
We do, in relation to our new builds, we're building approximately 10 homes a year at the moment. And I'm going to be honest, I don't get involved with the specification. It's all done through architects and the builders and et cetera. But even the requirement within British standard still causes us problems in the care industry. Here's one, for example: call points on areas where people are living with dementia are activated by people, and we do everything we can to stop them with covers over them, with howlers that make a noise. And in some of the homes, I actually specified that I wanted them the other side of the fire door, which has a magnetic lock, and there was all sorts of, well, you can't do that, British standard says this, so that British standard has a negative effect on false alarms in the industry. And sometimes you need to think reality. This is a difficulty, so it is a challenge for us. On
the point with MCP, with manual call points, obviously within the British standards now there is a proviso that you have to have a cover, full stop. But yeah, point taken there, Andy. Really, in as much as people, service users with dementia, can probably work out how to lift that cover up and still activate.
I just wonder whether, Ian may be able to answer this, is whether it's possible to write something into the risk assessment to override the British standard, Ian, to make it sort of, as Andy said, sort of safer. Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear this incorporation, and it's absolutely marvellous to hear it both in the context of installer and then the authorities overviewing it. From the training point of view, and having been a trainer for the Fire Industry Association for so long, there's so much ability to create variations to the standard, and that hinge clear cover is one that certainly sits in place significantly. And the training courses, we have the end users, we have the tenants of care homes attending, and we've had significant uplift in the number of people attending up to level 3 fire qualification, and their knowledge base has sat with, it's not double knock anymore in the terms of training, it's coincidence detection. They just don't like the term, and it's a challenge because people use different language situations. That's not the challenge to the fire, of course, and all the good work that's going on there, but the ability to develop a risk assessment, a fire safety risk assessment, and apply it to the building correctly with the interaction of the responsible person, and that's the big challenge. And I think we're going to discuss that in a bit. But it's a lovely movement.
Yeah. Simon, when I mentioned the training, I was wondering whether you wanted to jump in and talk about what you do as a company to ensure your engineers' skills are kept up to date with latest technology, any schemes that your engineers belong to.
Obviously, as ISO 9001 accredited company, there are particular restrictions put upon us that we have to have training programs in place for not just technicians but all staff. And this is further backed up with third-party accreditation with the likes of BAFE, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. We have to show training paths for all technicians and take that very seriously. Really, any company is only as good as the staff that it employs, and without that ongoing training, we would fail. So that's part of everything that we have to undertake for all accreditations that we hold, together with manufacturers' courses and product training.
The role of regular risk assessments, and Andy, I guess there's a certain way that these are done in the care homes, and there's obviously very specific risks in the care home sector. So can you talk us through the role of regular risk assessment, please?
We have a contractor that carries out our fire risk assessments. We're very happy with their competence level. We've checked that out, and they have as you know, risk assessments is not just an understanding of fire safety, it's an understanding of the people that use the premises and the difficulties, and that's not very often appreciated in the industry. An ex-fire officer is not necessarily a fire risk assessor. So what we do is have a full survey every 3 years of our building, and then every year we will do another review, often by the manager or myself or someone else within Barchester. Or if the building's changed or we've had an extension, we will get the original company out to undertake a full risk assessment. And it very much looks at the people and the environment, not just the system. So it's a risk approach. So hopefully that answers that question.
Ian, did you want to talk about the regulatory reform fire safety order and its impact on this particular sector? Do you have any experience on that? Ian Watts?
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory reform fire safety order, I'm a bit worried because in some respects it causes a little bit of chaos, because it's all about policing of the system, and with fire officers being as busy as they are with the risks and challenges that they're attending to, the process of actually policing a suitable fire safety risk assessment, and I get perfectly what Andy's just mentioned in regard to it being a suitable risk assessment for the building, including the user, but at the end of the day, we're talking about fire safety, and that is just critical. It's very, very important that we understand what those risks are and who's present within the building and how to assist them and how to keep the building occupied, to be honest, especially during this COVID situation that we've been through, where people can't leave the building very easily. They just need to move away from the source of the fire. And indeed, the local there's some misunderstanding, of course, and under the fire industry training courses that I've worked with, we do highlight significantly how care homes are upgraded potentially by local authorities to hospital technical memorandum status requirements. So these are lovely uplifts that both training courses and the regulatory reform fire safety order can apply. But I do hope that following Grenfell, we will see further policing and development of this. And as we see standards development in terms of BS 9999 and the integration and development of PAS 79, which has now been reviewed and actually revised, and that's out there now available for people to look at. So I hope that's supported.
Andy, can I just ask you if you could put your NASHiCS hat on for a second and maybe just summarise what the key guidance or best practice that you're giving to your members?
We have had many events, full days, half days, and we very much refer people to the Competency Council to look at the criteria for selection and being very careful. I remember doing one event where you can Google fire risk assessments and you can get one for £99 in a care home, which is very suitable and sufficient, I'm sure, but not. So we have emphasised the importance of checking somebody out thoroughly. It was shocking if you go back to when the reform order came out. There were managers undertaking fire risk assessments of their care homes, and that's well known in the industry. And it's you look now and it's scary. It's very scary that was people thought managers were competent to go and undertake a suitable and sufficient risk assessment in relation to fire. So it is about the Competency Council will refer people to and checking people out thoroughly.
So generally, who is the responsible person in a care home, would you say?
There's two definitions there. You could say it's the manager, but obviously under the legislation it's the chief executive or the board within the company. The managers do get put a lot of responsibility put on them for people within the building, and for in relation to remedial works on the fire risk assessment, it is their responsibility to make sure it's carried out because they're the local manager. But of course the right answer is it's the people that higher up, the chief exec or the board of any companies as a responsible person.
Okay. Is there any guidance? Do you give any guidance to your members about designing these evacuation plans? You mentioned a couple of examples of what you do. Is that rolled out across your members through NASHiCS?
No, well, it will come up in a conversation. We have something we call, and it's everybody knows it's called hot topics. What's hot at the moment? Cladding is still on the agenda as a hot topic, and it could be evacuation is one. Evacuation aids, there may be some new aids. So we just tell people to follow, what the industry are doing, and what we do is share good practices. So if somebody's got a good method of evacuation or managing fire safety, they will stand up and tell everybody about it and share it. And that's the beauty of NASHiCS. It's about learning from mistakes and learning where things have gone wrong and openly sharing that with people. And then I think that's a big thing in the industry to move forward.
You mentioned new builds. I'm just wondering whether LED is a factor for you, in the new buildings that you're bringing on and designing. Is that green footprint, reduced carbon footprint, is that an important factor for your group?
Very much, yeah. Even solar powered panels on the roof and southern facing roofs, and LED bulbs throughout. Low maintenance, long lifespan. Just amazing. Even building a USB charger into a socket in a bedroom is a lot safer, because we've had issues in the industry of fake chargers for charging phones that have caused problems. So even that is a safety issue, a fire safety issue, and a simple thing when you're building something from new. So yes, it's all taken into account.
And of course, emergency lighting. I've got two people who will be able to comment on this. Emergency lighting, current technology is practically all LED now, with some big cost savings.
Yes, I think it's more relevant to the retrofit market, where you've still got the old T5, T8 bulkheads, 8-watt bulkheads, I should say, which are inherently more unreliable, because the LED, as well as being so efficient, also lasts for a long time. So it's so much more reliable. They have to be tested once a month anyway, I know that, but the chances of a failure are very, very minimal in LED.
May I just add to that, the scaring factor of refurbishment of sites is that when one doesn't consider the inrush, and I mean this specifically when central batteries are concerned, because many care homes have historically utilised central inverter systems, and the hidden inrush from LED it just needs to be considered and engineered correctly, but maybe the change out to the new technology that's available would be appropriate.